Hey, David Codrea, there he is right there, sitting up there in Hudson, Ohio. Got his feet up on the desk just waiting for me.
You don't want to see me put my feet up, James. I'm barefoot right now.
What's going on in Hudson, Ohio? Anything?
Beautiful weather, James. Took advantage of it on Monday to go out and take my oldest boy with me, and we went golfing with my father.
Wow.
I've talked to you about that before, and that was real nice. My son has not done it much, so it was good to get the two of them together. Yesterday, yard work, and continue on with the struggles in my copious free time with this whole business of trying to keep the Second Amendment from eroding from underneath our feet.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up, David. That's one of the things we wanted to talk to you about, was that I went to your blog and I saw something on there about the gun snitch. And I thought that was extremely interesting. Expand on that for us. Tell us where we're going with that gun snitch idea.
Okay, well, I think that we all want to, do what we can to combat violent crime in our society. And unfortunately, there are real solutions and there are false solutions. Some of these are seized upon by headline-seeking politicians, headline-seeking police chiefs like Kathy Lanier in Washington, D.C. And basically, this is not new. They have copied other programs that have been tried elsewhere where they provide you with a toll-free number and they encourage you to anonymously call their tip line and to report someone who is carrying a quote-unquote illegal gun or who possesses one. And on the surface, people who don't look into this too deeply might think, well, what's wrong with that? You have, gangbangers out there that are killing people and things like that. And if someone can turn them in and prevent a tragedy, why not, take advantage of something like that? And the answer to that is that, with every benefit comes costs. And I think that we need to take a look at both sides of the equation before we just knee-jerk say that something like this is a good idea. First and foremost, there's absolutely no evidence that anything like this is going to work. You have to take a look at the people who are the true danger to society, and you have to take a look at the people who are their associates who would be in a position to know, and then you understand that you're dealing with some very dangerous characters, and there's got to be something, if they are in fact violent criminals, that they're guilty of, that they can be arrested and prosecuted for. But the other thing is, when you add the dual impact of a reward along with anonymity, you're just opening the door up to be rife with corruption. For instance, I illustrated a couple examples. Say I'm a rival drug dealer and you're encroaching on my turf. Well, now I can call the number and I can tell the police that, you, my rival, are carrying, and sit back and watch them do my work for me. And I enjoy total anonymity throughout this. And, this is unfair.
And David, when you do that, they may well reward you somehow for it.
Absolutely, but again, and this is just, it's funny, James, because we've had this talk before about a disconnect between certain police administrators and the police that are on the streets. And I submit to you that this is very unfair to any patrol cop that you would want to go enforce this, because all he's really going to know from dispatch is a report of a man with a gun. Chances are he's going to show up, prepared for the worst. Whether or not there's even a furtive movement or something like that, chances are he's not going to be alone. And if somebody is too fast on the trigger, we saw what happened over the last weekend in New York, where there was a guy with a gun at a party and the cops arrived and shots were fired and the cops ended up shooting their own people in the ensuing thing. But can you imagine if you were part of that as a patrol cop, you found out after the fact that this person had been set up, maybe by a jolted lover, maybe by just whoever, and that in fact you participated in this. This is something you would have to live with for the rest of your life. And I would submit to you that most of us would have a pretty hard time dealing with that and with our conscience that we participated
and
in something
David,
like that.
this shouldn't be confused with, there are some very good programs out there, the We Tip line, things like that, that have been very successful in many communities. Now, I don't want to disturb anything there because I think they are successful in many communities. But this is a little different when you're particularly talking about the gun snitch part, and you put out examples there that are perfect for this, in that it could be rival gangs ratting off on one another. I mean, it can become very confusing at that point. And then to throw in a reward, you know, I'm not real comfortable with this idea, but I do want to make at least some separation between some of the We Tip lines that have been very successful and what we are speaking of here.
What I want to make sure, though, James, that this entire concept does not tread on is the genius of our founders in the Constitution, particularly the Sixth Amendment, that we do have a right to face our accusers. And once you start out introducing this element of reward and anonymity into things, it could be that ultimately in your trial your accuser is going to be an arresting officer, but I would really think that it would be relevant possibly to a case to determine the total truth of the matter, to find out where did you get your information from, who are my accusers, and if that information is sheltered and you have no motive behind it, it just opens up the door to all kinds of corruption, and it opens up the door to creating a nation of snitches. And I don't think that's what the national character is supposed to be about. I think that there would be a price to pay in terms of just what that would do to us as a society if that is what we're going to allow ourselves to be reduced to. And of course, there's one other factor that I mentioned, and you know as well as I do, that not all cops are going to be 100% clean. And say I really want to bust you bad and I don't have the evidence to do it, what's to stop me from phoning in anonymously to the tip line, and now I have an excuse to come in and go after you that I would not have had probable cause to do before.
And there's a number of those incidences that do occur.